Okay. Looks like everything is running properly. Unfortunately, you'll notice, of course, that I have OBS open here on the right to run the stream because, silly me, I decided to wait until the day of the stream to get everything configured properly, which is just no good. For that reason, I will not be watching chat very much because to watch chat, I'll have to pull up chat on the screen, and I typically don't like doing that. But at any rate, welcome. I am Scott Lee. If this is your first time watching, I'm the founder, CEO of Elega Corporation, and this stream is picking up on an old series about the development of a game called Kalling Kingdom. And before I get started, it's important that I take part in a tradition. Yes, there it is. Oh, goodness. Sugar-free soda. Because when you're sitting for hours in coding, why do you need the calories, really? Every stream, I typically like to begin with a sip of sugar-free soda. Anyway, this is going to be fun. We're going to be picking up a schedule every Thursday, starting today, where we'll be coding live. We'll be getting a lot of things done, hopefully. We'll be really just finishing this game. So, Kalling Kingdom is a project that was supposed to be very small, and it's a turn-based city sim, also kind of a strategy game, that I put together, and it was supposed to be put together over 4 months. It took a little bit longer than that for what ultimately got released. And so, in fact, let me just show you here on elegacorp.com. Oops. Oh, I already have it open here. So this is callingkingdom.com. And you can go here to find more information about the game if you're brand new to it. So feel free to check out the website after the stream. I'm definitely going to be playing the game a little bit on this stream. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Hopefully the technical difficulties that I had leading up to the current broadcast do not get in my way. Sugar-free soda's coming back at me. And so you'll get to see plenty of the gameplay. And I'm going to talk in detail this opening stream as a part of kind of a brand new era of Kalling Kingdom development, telling you all about how we're going to modify the gameplay, overhaul the user interface, and just to sort of fill you in on where I've been and what has happened with the game. Things have been crazy busy. So, unfortunately, I have not done the best job maintaining elegacorp.com. You can see here on screen that the recent blog post, the last blog post was February 1st, and I really should have been posting some updates about Kalling Kingdom here on elegacorp.com as well. However, there is a reason that I haven't, and that is that this is a frantic time because there's a lot of things going on personally. Nothing bad, don't worry about that. Certainly nothing bad, but things are just busy and chaotic. And so elegacorp.com, we're going to do a big total overhaul of the site. We're going to really give it a nice, fresh, new look. And, don't worry. It will run just as fast, if not faster, than it already does. And it already runs pretty fast. If I go to the blog page there, it loads pretty fast. If I go to one of these posts, it pulls up in a bit, maybe a couple seconds there, right? Not too bad. It could be a lot faster. It could be a lot nicer, and it could definitely be a lot more visually appealing. So there came a point in Kalling Kingdom's development last year where elegacorp.com site development just kind of fell by the wayside. In turn, of course, I put a little bit of time into building the very, 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 very early beginnings of the Kalling Kingdom website here, but this is not nearly what it needs to be. And by the way, did you notice how fast that loading time is? By the way, that is not because anything here is cached or stored ahead of time. That is literally how fast the website loads, right? So any one of these posts I can click on, and it is literally loading that fast. The images are the slowest part. Those are actually coming from another site. If they were coming from callingkingdom.com, they would probably be a little bit faster. So anyway, the way that I got those fast loading speeds was by literally going back in time. And that's an interesting idea, because one of the things I'll talk about as we sort of press on here is how ideas of the past are actually incredibly important to the future of software. And a lot of those principles that are the fundamentals of computer science, they make all the difference to the quality of a game that you build. I feel like the microphone is just in my face here. So let me try and get into the game a bit here. But before I do, I did want to point out, as you can probably tell on stream, there is, if you go to elegacorp.com here and you go to Teespring, under the products tab there in the main menu, so in case you missed that, that's up here at the top, the products. You can go to Teespring from the drop down, right? And this is the Elegacorp Teespring store. You can find Kalling Kingdom merchandise here. And if you use the promo code on screen, I believe it is Kingdom Dev, you can get 15% off of the merch here. I am currently wearing one of these t-shirts. That's the Elegacorp logo silhouette t-shirt. You probably can't see the entire thing here on camera, but I'm wearing one of those t-shirts now, and Teespring just does fantastic work. I also have this exact coffee mug. The coffee mugs are also just awesome. I have 3 different colors myself already, because I ordered prototypes, and they just do fantastic work. So if you would like to support the stream or support Kalling Kingdom itself, this is a great way to do it if you've already bought the game. If you have not bought the game, it is available on Steam, as well as itch.io and GameJolt, which are 2 other platforms that you can purchase the game at. It is available for $7.99, and part of the mission is that the more hours I pour into the game, the more that $7.99 will be a bargain. But there are some problems right now with the game. And out of everything that I've done so far with this company, so I've put together now 7 different Pluralsight courses, which are basically these IT training media courses, which you can also find there on elegacorp.com, right? All of these are centered around Salesforce, and they've been very successful. I've been very happy with the results, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job polishing these courses, putting really good production value into them, providing quality examples, working examples with the software that I've that I've built for the courses. I also have water here. And that's all well and good, but the company will never be diversified until it runs multiple lines of business. And so, if you want to have a successful game, you have to work to a certain point before the quality bar really is risen to a level that is acceptable for charging a premium. And before you get to that point, the success is very, very little. Now, that being said, there was a bundle that we ran a little while back. And since that time, and since the game's release, the game has had over 1,500 downloads. Now, That's downloads, right? Notice I did not say sales. I have not sold 1,500 units. I would love to sell 1,500 units, but that's not what's happened. The bundle was for charity, and I'm still getting a number of downloads off of that bundle today. But effectively, commercially, that was essentially giving away the game for a good cause to what ultimately was hundreds of thousands of people. So very few of those have downloaded the game. And that makes sense because there was a huge number of games in the bundle. There was, literally thousands of games. It's probably one of the biggest bundles in history. So there was tons of games, tons of just different genres of games, right? And so it makes sense that there are only so many people in that batch who are going to be interested in strategy games to begin with. And then of those who are interested in strategy games, fewer of those will be interested in turn-based strategy. And of those who are interested in turn-based strategy, even fewer will be interested in a fantasy-themed turn-based strategy game. And then you go lower and lower and lower and narrower and narrower to the point where, if you look at this gameplay trailer, how many people are going to be interested based off of these graphics or this gameplay trailer, right? And the answer is not very many. And I knew that from the start. It's a niche game. It is certainly all about the gameplay. It is not very visually appealing, although we are going to work on the visual appearance of the game quite a bit. And over the next 6 months or so, the goal and the target is to make the game much more visually appealing. And so actually, here on screen, I've got the 2019 gameplay trailer. And it's fine, I guess. This is actually a fairly old version of the game now. There's actually a number of things that are missing, a few things that have changed since the gameplay in this trailer was recorded. And what you will hopefully see, if all goes according to plan, is we're going to release a new 2020 trailer for the game as well. Okay, so that's enough sort of introductory material. Let me get into the meat of the game. Let's try this out here. Let me just double check audio levels before I go crazy with this. I do want to get desktop sound on so that you can get a sense. Hopefully that's not too loud here. And now that might be too quiet. So this is important. So this is the logo screen that comes up for the Elega logo. This is version 0.36 of the game. You'll notice the main menu's not loading. Is it because I alt-tabbed out of the game? I don't know. But this is a known bug right here. So this has to get fixed, okay? It happens sometimes. Here, let me kill the game. And I just want to make sure that the audio is working. It's difficult to figure that out when I can't see the audio readout. Here, I'll do a quick test. Okay, yeah, so that'll work, I guess. Okay, yeah. So let me kill the game, and I'll go back in and try to restart it. And let's see how that works out. And hopefully, we can just let it load here. Okay. Wow. So you have this music and everything. So I'm going to assume actually that a number of you watching this have never seen the game. So let me give you kind of a tour, kind of a walkthrough, and we'll talk about how to play the game. Also, a lot of new players, they have a lot of difficulty whenever they first start, so I'll show you sort of my favorite strategy and my favorite sort of gameplay style with the game. And we'll also talk about design goals and where things have kind of gone right, where things have gone wrong, and how things are going to change, right? So first of all, the settings, which should not be underestimated. Oh, there we go. That's interesting. So I think these sliders... are not quite... Those are not quite working there. It's interesting. So one thing about the settings menu is that you can choose to enable or disable in-game help text. You can adjust the music volume. You can adjust the sound effects volume. It actually appears to be broken as I'm showing it to you right now. Here, if I do that, it does not. It does not kill the music. Okay, so that's a bug. Something's wrong with that. That's okay. That is okay. Okay, so this settings menu is not available once you start playing, and that's a huge problem. So that needs to be resolved. That's item number 1, just as I go into the opening screen here and start thinking about this. But you'll also notice there's no option to load a new game. And that's because save games were never implemented. I always intended to implement save games, and that never happened. Let me see if I can check chat here, just in case. Okay. So save games were never implemented. Let me start a new game, and we'll do a quick playthrough here. So first thing you'll notice is that there's this blank area. It's basically ground, okay? And there's nothing here. Completely open sort of grass field, or sort of just an open blank canvas. And up on the top left, you have the ability to manage your expenses, manage market investment, and of course this is appearing in the text down at the bottom. Available people, who are the people who you can make offers to come to the town. And I'll talk more about that here momentarily. The unemployed people, which if you open this up right now, there is nothing except for this X, which you can close out of that. There's a build menu where you have 5 different buildings that are available. These are the only 5 buildings in the game. There's little text help widgets here along the way that will show you sort of descriptions for each of the buildings, as well as tell you how much income they generate per turn, which there's some problems with that whole concept, which we'll talk about. And there's the number of turns. And then there's the ability to advance to the next turn, and there's a hint option here on the far right. So if I click on the hint button, the first thing it says is that the town has no people. You should probably make an offer to someone in the available people tab, which is right here, as you recall. So that's interesting, because it's actually possible to play the game without any people whatsoever. And I might explain how that works here in a little bit. But I just want to point out that the hint system, as I press on, and as I actually evolve this, because you'll find that it's actually not very useful after a certain number of turns, but I'm going to go in and continue doing some work around that. The hint system is meant to be able to tell you how to have a reasonably comfortable playthrough for the first time you play through the game. But it's also important to take note that even in this version of the game, even before I go on and I press on and I add some other systems, which I'll talk about, there are multiple ways that you're meant to be able to play the game. And a lot of people who play this, they see this opening screen, they poke around the menus, and they have no idea what's going on. And they might look at the hint and they say, okay, well, I guess I'm supposed to get some people, right? But the other thing I want to stress is that one of the design goals of this game is that it is meant to be a peaceful, sort of zen, very much a non-combative, non-confrontational, very pressure-free sort of gameplay experience. It's also supposed to be devoid of specific goals if you're not really interested in goals. Now, as you advance through the turns, you do have to worry about your town's survival. So there's certainly dangers in the Kalling Kingdom universe that will come along and attack the town. There's certainly monsters. There are untrustworthy people in certain moral dilemmas or deals that you might make, and those types of things. There are certainly concerns to be had, but if all you really want to do is live out a peaceful existence and you're not really after any one particular sort of achievement or milestone in the game, that's okay. And the game is meant to be able to be played in that way. But that being said, I will take the hint advice, and I'll go to the available people. And you'll notice that there's this number right here. Now, this needs to be a better visual indicator. But this is how much cash you have. So you have managed market investment, but then you also have this. This is actually the amount of cash you have in your city holdings. 500K, and the K represents the in-game currency. That's also called your cash, right? So you have a certain amount of cash that you're able to offer to available people. So if I cycle through these, there are different names, and they have different levels of cash, which is interesting. All the names, by the way, are randomly generated, which is it's interesting because you might notice this person has the same first name as this other person. But you'll also notice that as I cycle through, all of them have a happiness rating, and every single one of them says content. That's a problem. And the reason is that there was supposed to be a happiness system included in the game, but it's actually impossible to affect the outcome of this rating right now. So if you hover over the little help text widget, it says it's the overall happiness level of the available person, and as you bring them into your town, there are supposed to be different things that affect their level of happiness, including how well the market is doing, how well their current job is a fit for who they are, but none of these things got put into the game. And so this is one of those systems that I wanted to go back and fix. And the reason, by the way, that I want this to exist in the game, and the reason I feel it's so important, is because so much of this game, as it exists currently, is all about numbers. And you're not presented with a whole lot of things that connect you to the people that are in your town. So as I go forward, it's really important that I begin doing that and connecting you to the people that are living in your city. Okay, so I guess we should make an offer. So this help widget says use the up and down buttons to change the amount of cash you're offering to the available person. Offer cash shows the amount you're offering after clicking the offer button. So this person has 37 cash, and it turns out that does make some small difference on whether or not they'll accept a specific offer. So let me start by going super low, and I'll say offer. Okay, so they rejected the offer. Now, this offer system is actually not great, because in a given turn, you could continually offer the same offer over and over again. And then if it's rejected, you could finally go up and then see what the point is at which they accept. So that particular moment, they accepted 50. At that same time, they got removed from the available people. And now you'll notice that this number went from 0 to 1, which means this is the number of people that are actually in the town. Okay, but where are they? This space is still blank, it's still empty. Well, they're unemployed. So now there's this unemployed person here, Mox Maston is their name, and we can't really do anything with them yet. If I click and hold, I can drag them around the screen for some reason, but that's about it. And by the way, the click and drag is a problem, because everything else that we've seen so far is clicking buttons. If I go back into available people, this offer, click, 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 click. Everything is about clicking different things. Now, this, if I click that, oh, it just disappears. What's that about? So this is a nonverbal communication to the player that I screwed up on, because really, if I'm going to have this ability for someone to drag a person around the city screen, it needs to be such that the game at least tells them that they have to click and drag, or they should be able to click the person and then drag them without having to hold down the mouse button, right? So let's go back to the hint system, because I don't know what else to do right now, right? So it says you have unemployed people who need to be assigned to a business. Go to the build panel to click a building to construct and make sure you have enough cash to construct a new building. Okay, so that's very important. We need to be able to afford the building, so I'll say okay. So I'll go back to the build panel up here. And what do I want to build? Well, this is early game. The stable seems to be the cheapest, and why not? So I'll click the stable, and by the way, I'm not having to click and drag or click and hold down the mouse button and drag. I could just click the building, and now the building is available for me to place somewhere, right? And so my dragging this sprite around, I'm able to decide where I would like to place this. If I go too close to the edge, it turns red. If I go too close to the top, it turns red. So we can't build around the very edges of the screen, which makes sense because we're not going to be scrolling around the city, as it turns out, right? So I'll go ahead and place the stable down. Before I do, I just want to point out, if I hit escape, that exits the build mode, and then I would be no longer able to place the stable. So then I'd have to go back here and start over. So if for some reason you feel like you made a mistake, you can always hit escape, and it bails out. Okay. So then I'll go back to the stable. Let's place it down. I'll just place it here. Let's go to place as any, I guess. And then it asks for the name of the new business. And you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name this Tren Ranch, because that's actually the name of the city, is Tren Ranch. So I'll say assign. Okay. And we have some information here. This says business right here, and then it says business right here as well. That's clunky and messy and ugly, so that's on my list of things to change. The business name, though, it shows up here, Tren Ranch, okay? What type of business is it? Oh, it's a stable, all right. And right now, it will not generate any income per turn. Why? Because it has no owner, it has no workers, but we can place up to 2 workers here at this business. And if for some reason I got a typo and I wanted to rename it, I have that option as well. Oops. But see, if I hit escape, we go back here, and that's gruesome. I need to hit escape again, then go back, then go to this info button. So that's clunky as well. So you can see that as I go through this, there's a whole lot of UI elements that are kind of confusing, kind of inconsistent with how the nonverbal language happens with the player. That all has to be fixed. Okay, but back to the point, right? Forget about renaming the business. I'm good with Tren Ranch. We need to put a worker onto the stable. So I'll close out of this, go back to the unemployed people. I can click and hold the mouse, drag onto the stable, and now we got that little sound that played, and we see that Mox Maston, if we pull up the business, he's right next to this little panel. Now, if I go back to the info panel, you'll see that the income per turn shows 12. Okay, that's interesting. It shows that the owner is now Mox Maston. The number of workers is 1. So we have 1 out of 2 workers possible for the stable. I'll close that, but you'll notice, if I go back here, this is showing that there's 4K here. What is this about? Well, there's nothing that tells the player, but I'll tell you what this is. This is the real income that the town gets each turn, which is really the more relevant number. And this, of course, is the number of workers. So we have 1 worker, Mox Maston, here, right there. And with that 1 worker, they're able to bring in 4K per turn. Now, why 4K? Well, the reason is that out of the 12 that the business brings in total from the economy, 4 of that makes its way to the town via taxes, but this is also affected by how well the market is doing, which we'll talk about here shortly. Okay, but for the time being, again, we're still on the first turn. I've added Mox Mast into the stable. That's a good first step. But now, what else can I or should I do? Well, let's go back to the hints. And it says, it looks like the market would make you a great return. You need beyond just the town businesses. Go to the market panel and invest. So that might remind you from the beginning, we saw this manage market investment. So I'm going to click that. And we have a whole new screen here. So it shows that the current investment is 0. And the rate of return is 3%. Now, rate of return of what? Well, of the market. We also have a similar sort of thing that we saw for the available people panel from before, where instead of making an offer to someone, you can choose to invest cash. And there's this little bar chart down here. What is this about? It says, click this bar chart icon to view market rate of return history in a visual bar chart graph. Interesting. And there's not much to see currently. It's just 2 small bars that, by the way, another UI crime. These are unlabeled. But up here, it says that this shows the overall performance of the market the past 12 turns. Red indicates a decline in value, green an increase, and light blue a relative lack of change. So the market is a dynamic system in the game that will, hopefully, over the next 6 months, respond to events that happen across the simulated universe, and at times, hopefully, respond to things that you do as well. Right now, it will have a sort of steady up and down pattern, and it will trend toward a positive gain. So, if I were to say, okay, maybe I want to invest 300, and no, I'll make it 320. And I'll click invest. And now it says that our current investment in the market is 320, and that's expected to earn a rate of return of 3%. We have 70 cash up here at the top left in the city holdings. And so I'll close out that panel. And now what do we do? Are we ready to advance to the next turn yet? Well, let me go to the hint button one more time. And it says, looks like you're doing good. There are no hints to provide you, but I disagree. I'm the developer. I know better. And we need to improve the hint system to tell the player. Here is something that you might or might not know. If you go to your expenses, early on in the game, you don't need to keep the default level of expenses. So right now, it's showing that per turn, we'll spend a total of 10K. We have 70 in city holdings, so we could certainly spend 10K for this turn and probably be okay. But we don't need to do that. In fact, I'm going to reduce these expenses down to 1K each. And this is kind of a little secret, but it also demonstrates that the expenses system is sort of broken because you have no way of understanding how these different expenses affect different things. Now, there's some help text widget here. It says military spending helps to reduce crime and defend against monster attacks and threats to the kingdom. Okay, that makes sense. How about infrastructure? Infrastructure spending maintains city government buildings, roads between buildings, which, by the way, are never visible, and in and out of the town. Okay, so that's interesting, because what you could imagine to be the case is that maybe as we press on and add some sort of commerce feature to the game, we could imagine that if you have crumbling infrastructure, you won't be able to support sort of commerce between different cities. And there are other cities out there in the universe, the simulated universe, rather. What about water? Well, water spending maintains the common water supply to the city, making sure it is clean and well supplied. You got to have clean water for your city citizens, right? Waste spending maintains city plumbing and sewers and takes care of transporting trash beyond city walls. You can definitely have some grody, ugly, disgusting things happen if you don't spend a little bit on waste management and administration. Administration spending handles salary for city government workers broadly, including record keeping and tax collection. So you might imagine that really early on, I had a lot of ideas about these different expense categories, and there are other systems that I plan to build out in the next 6 months that will interact with this expense system much more meaningfully. Right now, however, there's very little difference that spending more than one makes. So if you wanted to, you could go up to the maximums on each of these, which is crazy because, as you'll discover, generating 31k per turn is actually extraordinarily difficult. So you probably don't want to max out all the expense categories. And if you do, in the current version of the game, there's basically no benefit to doing so. However, if you go to 0 for any one of these categories, you will encounter problems. It will create issues for the town. It will generate events, and it will cause, if you have people living in the city, it will cause them to get angry and start moving out of the city every single turn. So that can have an effect. Also, if you go to 0 military spending, you risk being completely obliterated by these monsters that will come and attack the city, as you'll discover. And just to tell you, just to let you know, there is no negotiating with monsters, as you'll discover. Okay, so the hint system says that we're good. I've adjusted the expenses because I just know that's what I want to do. We're ready to go to the next turn. So let's go to the next turn. And holy cow, it says we spent 431k. The population, however, is now 1. We generated 4 in tax revenue, but we spent 5. So we're actually quite negative since that first turn. But that's okay. We're at the very beginning still. Let's continue. And one thing about that turn summary is that it does not tell you the entire story from the aspect of the market. So the market is extremely important. You'll notice that we went from a 3% rate of return to a 7% rate of return, and the amount of money that I put in the previous turn has now grown to 341. Wow. That's pretty powerful. If any of you are familiar with compound interest, you know that when the market is doing well, and you have money invested and you keep putting money in and you get a consistent positive return, that can mean that the money compounds to a higher and higher amount very, very powerfully in a multiplicative way, as opposed to just adding a little bit of money every turn. So in fact, your investments are so much more powerful in reality than what you can do with businesses, at least right now in this version of the game. So why would you build businesses then? Well, so that's exactly one of the things I would like to get to, and that's that if you want, you can play the game without building any businesses. You can play only spending the bare minimum on expenses, and in fact, I may go in and sort of tweak this at some point, as long as I can communicate to the player what's going on. I might tweak this to say, well, maybe some of these, if you're by yourself, these don't matter, right? If that's the case, you're just living in this open field, essentially, and you're on your own, and you're just sort of a business tycoon at that point, investing in the market, managing your own affairs without anyone living in the city. So there's immediately some systemic options here, and you might then say, okay, well, why would I build businesses if I can just earn more money all the time in the market? And the answer is so that you can build a city. Not everything as a part of the systems in this game are meant to be incentivized or pushed after in some sort of a goal, right? The goals are yours to choose in many cases. Now, there may be a number of things that I press onward in the next 6 months of development and sort of adjust, right? Which is, it might be the case that there might be some really powerful ways I allow you to generate income with businesses over the next 6 months. But even if I do, even that being so, it's important to understand that fun is of the priority, balance is secondary to that, and the other thing is that this is a game that has no combat, And that is part of the design goal, is to make this an interesting, engaging experience without combat. But you can see, just in the first 2 turns and through my explanation of the gameplay, that there is so much left to be done here. Because we have a business, we have some money invested in the market, we have expenses, but without much of a connection directly to systems, especially with no communication to the player. And we have 5 buildings without much of an explanation as to why the 5 different types, along with their prices and the amount they generate and how many workers can work there, why all that is important. Okay, well, let's check the hint system. Is there anything? Oh, no, there's nothing. So the hint system is overly simplistic, right? In reality, it needs to be developed such that if you want to lean on the hint system whenever you're a new player, it needs to be guiding you so that you can play a successful game where you can win and at least give you at least just one strategy for doing so. Now, I will tell you, there are multiple strategies for surviving in this game. But again, survival in and of itself is not really the point here. I would say the bigger point of the whole gameplay idea, the whole concept here, is the simulation itself. It is the world, the universe that you're interacting with itself. And there's a lot that can be put in here where that's the whole idea, is to add more and more ways that the player can engage with that and get feedback from that. But again, the number one mistake I made is including these details that are obscured from the player. Because on the one hand, you're told what are these things at the top through the text at the bottom, but what's this number? Is this number related to the available people? Well, no, it's the current number of people in your town. What is this number? Is this somehow related to how much you have invested in the market? No, that's the cash you have for city holdings, but that's not told to you. These are things that new players have, based on the feedback I've received, frustratingly had to figure out, and that's of the utmost importance for me to fix as the designer. So these are all the things on the list. Now, I'm going to press on through a lot more of the gameplay, and we're going to explore a little bit of the events system in the game, which is basically kind of the moral dilemmas or decisions that you encounter across each turn. And we'll take a look at that a little bit, as well as kind of explain things as they come up along the way. Because the event system is kind of its own thing. I put a fair bit of time into it over the 4 or 5 months that I spent building the game, and you'll kind of see that. But first, let's do a checkup on everything. So to review, we have bare minimum expenses. Okay, that's good. The market, we can do a little bit more into there, I think. We'll keep around 49k. Actually, we'll sell off just one, make it an even 50, because why not? Again, this is generating 4k. That's interesting. But what else can we do, right? So 50k is not a lot. We're going to keep the majority invested in the market. We're going to run that 7% rate of return. We're going to see what we can get out of that. It looks like the market is on an upward trend. That's good. No one employed. Let's go to the next turn. Okay, so now we've only lost 21, which really is probably just from putting that money into the market investment, right? Population still 1, tax revenue still 4, still losing 1. Okay, so we went from 50 down to 49. Interesting. Let's check on the market. Okay, growing to 384. How's it doing? Oh, wow, the market is just flying upward. Let's see if we can get just a little bit more cash in there and proceed to the next turn. Okay, so now we have this screen that is letting us know monsters are attacking. What should we do? Attempt defense or attempt surrender? You may recall from a short while ago, I told you there is no negotiating with the monsters. So we're going to attempt defense. Okay, so the city was successfully saved from attack. I will continue. And that's an example of the event system. The monster attacks are a part of that event system. They're probably the most consistent part of the event system. But I'm a little concerned at this point as to the future attacks. Let's check on the market real quick, and then we're going to follow up with expenses. So we have 428 now. This is doing fantastic. I think we're going to stick with the current investment we have. We'll hang on to our cash for now. Still upward direction there in the market, although it looks like it's not gaining any more steam. Looks like it's flattening it out on the upward gain, but that's fine. Go to the expenses, and I'm a little concerned about the monster attack we just had, so I'm going to go from 2K, or I'm sorry, from 1K to 2K. Just increase military spending a little bit. And one of the things that is true in this version of the game that I do not make apparent to new players, which again is a crime, that is a design crime, is that you do have to gradually escalate your military spending. If you don't, then you'll eventually be destroyed by monsters. The monster attacks do get more powerful. But that's a problem gameplay-wise, because there's nothing that lets the player know that that's happening. You kind of have to figure that out by trial and error currently, and that's not good design. We need to communicate to the player what the threat level is. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next turn, maybe? Yeah, I think so. So, increase military by 1. Our investment's doing well. We have 37 cash. Getting kind of low on the cash, but we're going to go to the next turn. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a trade deal with the city of Rosper. The city of Rosper has proposed a trade deal with your city. This deal would yield 5k additional income to the city holdings per turn for 10 turns. Should we take the deal? Now, this is simplistic. There's nothing here that indicates any kind of a downside. So, you could choose, as a part of your own goals, to keep the city isolated, right? And to shut out the rest of the kingdom. Shut out the rest of the world here. But I like the idea of income. I like the idea of the city being rich, so I'm going to make the deal. And the trade deal is secured. Now, city trading is something I've thought a lot about over the past many months since the game came out, and I have such important ideas about that whole trade system, because it doesn't really belong in the event system. We need to have city-to-city trading as a part of the game, and how would that work? Well, you have different building types that currently, they might generate different income levels, but the market in the game, the economics in the game, have been overly simplified. So the stable happens to bring in a certain amount, but what does that have to do with it being a stable? So the trade system in the game, which needs to be built out, which needs to be really just explored design-wise, that should involve the creation of different items from the different businesses. Items that you can then trade, right? Or, in the case of the hotel, maybe that would involve the lodging of people inside the town. Maybe the establishment of a tourism metric, perhaps, right? So all of these buildings can actually lead to different things that can happen with both the existing gameplay systems and gameplay systems that can be further developed and introduced, right? Okay, so where are we at? We'll keep 2k on military, that's fine. Market is just flying upward. I'm loving it. 10% rate of return. Doing very, very well. 35k, I think we'll manage. Let's go to the next turn. Still losing a little bit, only collecting 4 tax revenue and losing 6 expenses. You might think that it's probably a better idea to build another business right now, but you got to keep in mind the market is doing fantastic at the moment. It will eventually come back down. It is the nature of the market. So we probably want to hang in there with our investment because that is doing super well, and that 10% is only going to continue growing. Okay, so I'm going to say next turn. Still losing 2, but that's okay. Oh. And it appears that the market is doing so well that we're actually generating additional income. Now, this still says 4K, and that's not accurate. So something is wrong with the update of this number because we went from generating 12 to generating 15. And why? because the market is doing well. So you can see that the market is this example. The earliest idea, and this is like the best thing in the game, is the fact that this one system can affect everything else. It can affect how much you need to spend on different categories. It can affect how much income the businesses bring in. If you introduce the trade system, it can affect how many items you're able to produce, how much demand is on those items, with the prices of the items, and so on. So there's a lot of opportunity here to further involve the fully pure, dynamic aspect of the market system. And that's really like the big thing, right, is that purism. When the market directly has an effect on something else going on in the game, that is huge, right? Because you need to be able to basically do that and then make it apparent to the player. And then before you know it, once you have all of these pure systems causing effects on each other, you can show the player that, and then the player can intelligently respond in their own way to what's happening with those market forces or with those dynamic systems, right? That emergent gameplay that can happen with pure systems. But the systems right now are not pure, because as you advance from turn to turn, you have events that are pre-scripted that can happen to you, and that's not very pure. That's contrived, right? The expenses, the fact that the monsters become more powerful, and you have to learn over time to increase your military spending from turn to turn, that's problematic. That's contrived. That's not a pure system. So that's really the key to everything, is we've got to make the systems pure. In other words, if this growth number is going upwards, then this income number needs to steadily climb. If this number goes downward and the market begins tanking, then similarly, this business needs to be affected by that, and this number should go down. It is similar in an action game to if you swing a sword and hit a thing, that sword should have a force applied, right? You don't randomly decide when you collide with something whether or not it actually hits it and applies a force. No, the pure system is you swing the sword, you hit something with the sword, okay, if you hit it, then a force is applied. And it should be a force consistent with however that sword works. If there's modifiers on the sword, if the player has like a fire or an ice upgrade, then that should affect the damage output. Or if for some reason the thing that you're hitting responds to fire and ice in a certain way, then okay, now you have that pure interaction going on. Maybe fire doesn't light something on fire. Maybe ice can't freeze a certain object, and so on. Okay, so you get the idea. Market is doing phenomenal. Let's press on. Next turn. Okay. Starting to gain money now, and that's because the market is doing so well that the stable is actually generating positive income over the city expenses at the moment. But since it's doing so well, I'm going to throw another 14 into the market. And let's accelerate that compounding effect. Okay, so lost 2. Looks like things are starting to come back down, or they're maybe kind of holding steady there on the market. Very, very interesting. Wow, we're still doing 10% though. That's wonderful. Our money is just growing and growing and compounding. I'm going to go ahead and press up to 3K because I'm getting paranoid about the monsters. I'll hit next turn. Okay, continue. Now we're actually losing 3, so that's a little concerning. But how are we doing on the market? Let's see. 763. Still doing wonderful. Still a very positive market going on here. Looks like we're past a peak here, though. So, okay. Okay, I'll say next turn. There we go. Still coming down a little bit. Okay, now we're down to a 9% rate of return. So the market is beginning to weaken a little bit, but we'll see how it progresses as we press into the next turn. Still losing about 3 cash. Oh, no, looks like I'm not losing anything, actually. Oh, 6% rate of return. Okay, so the market is definitely starting to falter a little bit from its previous high back here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns ago or so. We'll go ahead and hang in there with the 3K on the military and say next turn. Losing a lot now because the effect of the market is not allowing my stable to carry the entire city expenses, right? So we're definitely losing a certain amount there, but kind of hanging in. Okay, so next. So here's an event. A traveler has arrived in Tren requesting aid. They appear thin and pale. Clearly, they have been without proper food and water for many days. It will cost 1K to provide them with temporary fresh meals and temporary shelter for this turn. Turning them away in their current condition would lead to starvation and death quickly. Alternatively, they could be a security risk. What should we do? Now, when I first designed this, I thought it would be fun to have some randomization. So, it's actually kind of a tricky decision. Usually the right thing to do is provide aid, but sometimes they will cause problems. I'm going to go with doing the right thing, and we'll see what happens if I provide aid. It says the traveler was immensely grateful for your help. After recovering from their journey, they have chosen to press on to their original destination west of Tren. Oh, okay, very nice. Now, the fact that I didn't know what the outcome would be is a problem. Again, this violates the #1 crime, the design crime I've been talking about this entire time, and that is that the player needs to understand, right? The system has to be pure, and the player has to see the effect directly. They have to understand what the consequences are and be able to see the outcome. If they can't see it before it happens, it needs to make sense why they missed it, right? There should be some way that they could figure it out so that they can make a decision to go a different way, right? It needs to at least be possible. Okay, the market is now returning a negative percentage by just a very small amount. And for that reason, I'm out. I'm gonna withdraw all my cash, sell, and now that goes to the city holdings. We now have 935K. And we're only on turn 14, which is awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and build. I'm going to build a farm. I'll call this, what should I call this? I'll call this, Trend Farm. I'll keep the question mark there because I don't know what to call it. We're going to need someone to operate the farm, or to farm the farm? How do you say that? Farm the farm? Operate the farm? Okay, so there, we have a person. We'll drag them down there. This is Cash Moncap. Very nice name. Okay. So now they're a part of Trend Farm. Okay, and the farm is not pulling in very much. Only 5 income per turn. How's the stable doing right now? Ooh, 5 income per turn on the stable as well. That is fascinating, isn't it? The market makes such a difference on these businesses. Okay, so I got a farm. I'm going to do one more stable. We'll put it next to the other one here. Can't be too close to the other one there, so I'm going to put it there. And we'll call this Tren Ranch Expansion. No, expansion. There it is. And we'll need one more person. That's rejected. Let's go to the next one. There we go. Got that person for 60. Fren Kernenvale will go to the stable. If I can... There we go. No, that went to the wrong place. Ah, so see, there's a problem with dragging that person. There we go. There they are. So now we have one person on each stable. Another problem is that you'll notice that if I wanted to, I could drag this person from one business to another. I could drag them over here to the other stable, or I could drag them over here to the farm. And now we have 2 people on the farm. How many people can we put on a farm? Well, we can put up to 3, it looks like. And if I put 2, the income goes up to 6. But if I only have 1, the income is still 5. So it's generally good to start with putting 1 person in each business. And then if you begin building out your population, you can start stacking people into businesses. And you'll get a little bit of a gain there. But in general, it's not good to overload one business with multiple people, because it's important that they be out there sort of participating in the city, right? And you want to have that variety going on. I will add 1 more farm. Actually, maybe 2 farms. I'm not sure. I will call this... 1 fields. Why? I don't know. It just came to me. The same way that these random names came to me for these people. Okay, so there's person number 4. Okay. So we got 1 field. We got Trend Farm. We have Trend Ranch and Trend Ranch Expansion. Okay. By the way, in case you can't tell, there's a little bit of Roller Coaster Tycoon inspiration with the design of this game. In that game, you're managing a theme park, and you can name your rides different names, right? Okay. I'm going to do 1 more farm, I think. Yeah, we'll do 1 more. We'll do 1 more over here. I will call this 2 fields. Why? I don't know. The other one was called 1 fields. Why not 2 fields? Okay. What is this person? Norfull. There you go. You're a farmer now, Norfull. Oh. If the UI will cooperate with me. There we go. No, that doesn't work. So that's definitely a bug going on where if you place buildings too close together, you can't put the person onto the building. Okay, that worked. 1, 1, 1, 1, and 2. Okay, so we got 5 people. Our investment capital grew the town significantly, so we have 3 farms, 2 stables. We have a nice little agrarian society going here now. The market is going downward, though, as you recall. So, goodness, not great. We don't have a whole lot of time left on the stream, so I'm going to try and kind of accelerate through this a little bit more. You can see the market's still going down. We're kind of having a market crash at the moment. Negative 4% rate of return. You can see it going down here on the chart. Not great. Let's power through this if we can. We're only losing 2. That's really good. We have income coming in from these businesses. Even when times are bad, if we have a lot of businesses, we can really sort of make do, it looks like. Negative 5% rate of return. Market's coming down really low. Keep going. Keep going. Let's power through it. Power through it. Negative 7%. Oh, not good. Not good. How's the military doing? I'm going to increase it to 4K because I'm still paranoid. Next turn. Continue. Continue. Attempt defense against the monsters. City was saved from attack. Okay, how's the market doing? Oh my gosh, it's at the bottom here. However, this is kind of cool, isn't it? Look at that nice smooth line downward. That's fun. But we want the market to behave a little more sporadically. So in the future versions of the game, you'll see work done on the market where, hopefully we'll get it kind of spiking sometimes. Other times it'll have a plunge and then recover and all those kinds of things. I don't want it to work exactly like the real world stock market or anything like that, because it's really meant to reflect more of the in-game economy between the different cities inside of the kingdom in the fictional universe. But we're going to put some more work into it to just add a little bit more dynamism, a little bit more sort of fun and unpredictable sort of things that you can respond to. But again, I promise that one of the things I'll focus on is if we do that, we will communicate to the player and we will make the systems pure. That's the theme of this stream as I'm introducing all these gameplay changes that we're going to be working on here over the next many months. Another monster attack. Well, I guess more defense. Okay. By the way, the game ends at 60 turns. How do you know that? Well, hopefully you've played before. So we're going to add the ability to play with different amounts of turns. You'll be able to do short games where maybe it's only doing 20 turns. You'll be able to do other games where you play 60 turns. Once you get down the flow of the game, you're able to press through this a lot faster. You can kind of tell I'm already progressing through turns very, very quickly. Right now, we're kind of just riding through the death of the market, and now just the early beginnings of a recovery, hopefully. It's coming back up. Let's keep going. Market's still flying back up. Still coming up. Are we still negative? Oh, now we're at 2%. 2% positive return. Let's just throw our cash in there. Let's go nuts. I'm going to say next turn. Oh, look at that. Tax revenue of 20 because we got 5 businesses now. So now the expenses of 8 is really not a big deal. Income is reported at negative 286, but that's only because I'm putting money into the market. And we're going to get more cash as we press on and the market recovers. 6% rate of return. We're starting to see that growth again. And interesting little sort of repeated pattern there. 9% rate of return. We have grown by 82K. Let's put some more money in there. Another 20 next. Let's do another 22 next. 9%, 10%. Look at that. So a little bit of variability going on, but we really want to push this as much as we can. I'll put another 2 in there. Next. Interesting. Money's growing. There we go. 624 now. You see how fast that money grows when it's compounded in the market. Super powerful. And we'll just keep it going while we have the positive rate of return. More defense, and I'm still paranoid. I'm going to go ahead and increase to 5K. Now, just to let you know, once you get to 5K, you're actually good. So why do I have the maximum at 15K? Well, maybe you're the United States. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's really just because there are additional plans for having that number of 15K. But as we press on over the next 6 months, let's see if we can actually hit that that goal or that sort of usage of the military expense category, right? We'll see if it pans out design-wise. We really have a lot planned and a lot of gameplay testing to do, so we'll see how all that sort of plays out. Okay, now we're going negative again. Pulling the money out, and we should be much better off than when we started. There we are, 794K. Let's go ahead and build a hotel right here in the middle of town. I always love to call this the Grand Tren Hotel. And we're going to need someone there working at the hotel. By themselves, of course. Yonatha Terafali, my best friend in the game. I'm just kidding. I have no idea who that is. Okay, next. How's the market doing? -1. Interesting. It's like kind of hanging out there a little bit. Next. -3. Oof. It says it's holding steady. Not really though. Next. Oh, okay. Yeah, now it's red. -6%. Next. Are we still generating positive income? I didn't even look. Oh, almost. I think that the market effect is a little bit too strong. I probably need to work it out a little bit better so that you can probably, even when times are bad, it ought to be that if you have something like this, you should be able to break even with that. You know, once your in-city economy is large enough, you should be able to have a level of self-sufficiency, I think. I think gameplay-wise, that's a good thing to do. So again, fun comes before balance, but it doesn't mean you throw balance out the window. Balance is like number, 2, 3, or something like that, right? You have to have some balance in there. Okay. So you can see the market up and down, up and down. Over the past hour, we've seen it. So I'll keep going here. Next. Next. And now we're coming back up. So I'll go ahead and fly onward to turn 60. Just so that we can see that in-game screen. And we'll put money into the market as we go. Do another 20. We are raking in the cash. Market flying upward now. Keep trying to hit the 100 on accident there. Oh. I was trying to do too much there. Let me take back. There we go. Just hang in there. Okay, we are on turn 56 now. The game ends at 60. Or right after 60, I believe. Do 17. We're going to have to pull out right here at the last second. Okay, where are we? 849? Not bad. I'm going to go ahead and sell off now. Just so that we can finish with that in City Holdings. Okay. 903K, 920K, and we're done. And that is Kalling Kingdom version 0.36. It is unpolished, it is incomplete, and we have updates on the way. So, hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I'm sorry I didn't check chat. I promise I'm gonna get the stream setup worked out much better for next time. I will check chat though one time before we check out here, just in case. And it looks like we're clear. So thank you for watching. If you're catching this on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the game. Especially if you're a player, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your feedback. If you just watched the playthrough because you were just hanging out and watching to see what the game is like, and you were interested in what the gameplay was or how to play and all those types of things, again, feel free to leave me a comment. And I think that's all I have. I will be back again next Thursday live here on Twitch, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be back with my my sugar-free soda. And don't forget, if you'd like to support the stream, go to elegacorp.com, go to the products tab here from the top menu, go to Teespring, and there you can find the Teespring store with all of the ElegaCorp merchandise and the Kalling Kingdom t-shirts. Here we do have some new merch designs on the way with the updates that we're going to be doing to the game to vastly improve the experience. And if you haven't already, make sure you go to kallingkingdom.com, go to the blog, check out this latest post here called Kalling Kingdom version 36 and the future plans for 2020. We have a little mock-up here that was done of the plans for improving the user interface. You can kind of see here that it looks a lot nicer, and that's going to be the direction that I'm going with the UI. In addition to gameplay improvements, UI improvements, better new player experience, all of those things, there is a lot of work to do. I know I didn't do any coding this time, but that will happen. Don't worry about it. Also, there on the EligaCorp YouTube channel, which if you don't know how to get there right now, community and YouTube right there. On the YouTube channel, there is a playlist of all of the previous development streams. So if you go to the Eliga Corporation YouTube channel, you go to playlists, and then you go to Kalling Kingdom dev streams, then you will find all of the previous streams. There were 17 of them. And this will take you through the very earliest days of the game's development. And look at this. I just want to point this out. This is from the very first stream. This was the first UI. 3 boxes, 3 words, 3 numbers. And if you look at where we are now, that's quite a difference. And, you know, I think you haven't seen anything yet. So, anyway, thanks so much. I'll call the stream there. Talk to you next time.